Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PAC-Man podcast, Patriotic American Citizen. Before we get started, let me tell you that if you like this program, you can hit like, you can hit subscribe, and you can go to the comment section and you can comment on not just this program, but some of the other programs we have for you, and the columns that we put up each week. Try to do at least one column a week. The PAC perspective. There's now an opportunity for you to comment on the column. So let us know what you're thinking, good, bad, or otherwise. Just keep in touch. And if you want to contact me directly, I'm Ted Flint. It's PAC-Man at thebmgnetwork.com. PAC-Man, P-A-C-M-A-N, all lowercase. This woman has so much guts that I love Margorie Taylor Greene. I think she is something special. The media hates her. That's why you should like her. From where I sit, she is a patriotic American citizen. She tells it like it is. It's at least like she sees it. And that's refreshing. She's kind of a female version of Donald Trump. We'll get to Donald Trump in a minute because there are, all kinds of speculation about him running in 2024 for president. Some people are saying that he could be the Speaker of the House in 2022. And there are other people who say that he's got too much baggage. And I think, you can make a case that Donald Trump, he's walked, as somebody wrote, some columnist wrote, he knocked down the door, and now it's time for somebody else to walk through it. So we'll get to Trump in a minute, but Margorie Taylor Greene, or MTG as she's called for short, affectionately, she says we have a communist government in charge in Washington. We absolutely do. Now, I'm not talking about the AOC wing of the party and Ilhan Omar and some of the others. I mean, the Democrats are communists, many of them. But nobody has the guts until now to say it. They just go along to get along. Republicans, too. They go along to get along. They cut deals. Mitch McConnell cut a deal recently with Chuck Schumer to pass this, the Biden's Build Back Better plan. We want no deals with these people. Anyway, back to Margorie Greene. She warned Americans must brace for a dark time. You think things are bleak now? Gas prices out of control, inflation higher than it's been since 1979. We better have a game plan because it's going to get darker. And we need to plan to defeat a malevolent government unlike this nation has ever seen. Those are her words. Those are mine too. We have a communist government in charge. I'll read you her quote. This administration, the policies, their behavior, and the way they're targeting their political enemies is what we are used to seeing in communist countries. What went on January 6th? The FBI is going after people involved, still doing it, knocking people's doors down and arresting them. We're not used to seeing that here. We're going to have to take a different approach. And as Greene said, we need to look at them with complete distrust and skepticism because the government right now is targeting you if you're a conservative, and especially if you are a Trump supporter. We see it every day, in every way. But I'm going to read you her quotes, and I'll infuse mine when the time is right. I'm in total agreement with her. We need to prepare for more government overreach. And we have to find a way to fight back. We have to get people informed, for one thing, and there's still time. We have a Constitution. This administration doesn't observe the U.S. Constitution, but we have judges, thanks to Donald Trump, the High Court, and federal judges. He named a slew of federal judges to the bench, the federal bench, and they're protecting us right now. Now, Greene is one of a handful of other Republican members of Congress who is, we should all be concerned about the treatment of what many are calling political prisoners in the wake of this disturbance January 6th. January 6th was not an insurrection. It doesn't fit the definition of an insurrection. It was a protest of sorts, and mostly peaceful, like the ones the media told us were peaceful last summer in Seattle and Portland, as the communists were burning down cars and buildings and destroying property and maiming people, and in some cases killing people. But they were mostly peaceful protests. January 6th was mostly peaceful. There were a handful of people who took things to the extreme, and things got out of control quickly. But the FBI has been on this year-long manhunt for Trump supporters who were at the Capitol that day. And many of those people who were there believe that the U.S. presidential election in November was hijacked. And when you have a substantial number of Americans who believe that their vote doesn't count, you're going to have problems like we had on January 6th. We're not going to have fewer problems. We'll have more of these types of outbursts. I hope we don't. I'm not advocating that. You have to make that clear, because the other side will accuse you of being violent or, stumping for violence. No such thing. And Greene said that. She made that clear too. She says we're going to have to do something about, we can't let what happened in November be repeated. What people are going to have to start to realize is we are not dealing with an ordinary government. The election of 2020 wasn't your typical swing of the pendulum back to the left and having their turn in power. The pendulum got completely ripped off on November 3rd. This is a quote from Margorie Greene. We must all be very honest. Democrats are finally showing us their true colors. They are communists. I've been saying this for decades, but I have no pull. Who's listening to me? Hopefully, hundreds of thousands of people. But Margorie Taylor Greene's in Congress now. She can do something about it. Again, I'll read you another quote from her because she's fantastic. If you're someone who was here in D.C. January 6th, she told WorldNet Daily, the FBI could raid your home if they haven't already. The Department of Justice could charge you because you may have walked through the Capitol, which was a really bad choice. But if you walked through and you haven't been arrested, they're still looking for you, and you are going to be arrested. That's the reality we're in. It's not going to go away anytime soon. And I agree with her. Now, there's all kinds of reports that the FBI was part of this uprising, January 6th. They let some of these people in the Capitol. As far as the treatment of these people who were there on January 6th and who were arrested, they're subjected to all kinds of mistreatment by the guards. I don't know if you're reading about this. Probably you're not seeing it on the network news. They're called white supremacists. They're being denied religious services, haircuts, shaving, the ability to trim their fingernails. She said this, Greene did, alongside her fellow GOP reps, Louis Gohmert, Matt Gaetz, and Paul Gosar. They are told that they have to denounce President Trump. They are told that their views are the views of cult members. This is unbelievable. This is what happens in a communist country, just like Soviet Russia. What happened on January 6th was not an insurrection. We will do a program specifically on January 6th, sometime in the near future. Alex Jones, InfoWars. I mean, I've gotten some of my news from them in the past. Steve Bannon, they're going after those types of people. Those are some of the targets of the January 6th committee. And I'll just read you what she said, and I agree totally. The 2020 election was not legitimate, but staying home is not the answer. We have to get people out to vote. We have to get people volunteering to watch all the different polling centers, not just on Election Day, but the days and weeks leading up to Election Day volunteering and the days afterwards. People are going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the only way we're going to stop it. And that means taking a strong stand. Then she added, I'm not talking about violence. See, that's how the left operates. They'll accuse you of promoting violence or threatening violence. I was at my local school board meeting, and I didn't hear the guy. Some ponytail stood up and said that Ted Flint advocated violence at the last meeting. It's like, are you kidding me? It's a good thing I didn't hear him. But that's how the left operates. They can't debate you on the issues, on the merits of whatever the issue is. They resort to the ad hominem. This is what they do. And the media plays right into it. But anyway, Greene says to call your representative, call your senators, call your congressman, and let them know that you've got your eyes on them. And go to your local school board meetings. Again, that's another show in and of itself, our local school board. Unbelievable. Some of the same stuff that's going on in Washington and in Albany is going on at your local school board meetings. You've got to get involved in it. I don't want to. I went to my last couple of meetings, and I'd rather be home watching the football game on Thursday nights. I said to my son, there's still time to catch the first half of the Minnesota-Pittsburgh game. I don't want to be at a school board meeting till 9:30, but you have to. You've got to get involved because the left will just steamroll you. Back to Trump. As someone wrote, Michael Brown wrote a great piece for WorldNet Daily. He said, Trump knocked down the door. Let someone else walk through it. And it's a great piece here. I'm not going to read it all to you. That's 3 or 4 pages long. But he said, and he voted for Trump twice. And I voted for him as well in 16 and in 20. People love Trump. Either they love him or hate him. But most working class Americans, middle America, loves Donald Trump because he didn't play Washington's games. He was the champion of the people who put him there. He wasn't a member of the good old boys club. And he put them on notice. There's a new sheriff in town, and things are going to change. And for 4 years, they did. But you saw how the left went after him. They impeached him not once, for twice, over nothing. The media was after him every day. He would appear before the media, give the media, however long they wanted, every single day. When's the last time you see Biden give the media any time? They protect him. They shuffle him off back down a cellar somewhere. But now Trump has broken the mold. I mean, he's thrown out the old rule book and he's forged a new path. And now it's time for somebody else, according to Michael Brown. And I kind of waver on this day to day. I think he'd be great if he ran again. I think he is. I mean, obviously he's testing the waters, all these rallies he's holding, this new social media site that he's created. But we need another, maybe a younger conservative, somebody without all the baggage. They're going to be attacked, no matter who it is, whether it's DeSantis, whether it's, I don't know who could fill his shoes. There is no Trump. There is nobody like Donald Trump, unfortunately. But he does bring a lot of collateral damage with him. And there's a new book out, and this is what Michael Brown focuses on here in this piece at WorldNet Daily. Trump gave an interview to Barack Ravid for his new book, Ravid's new book, Trump's Peace, the Abraham Accords and the Reshaping of the Middle East. And as was reported in the Jerusalem Post in April of this year, Trump explained to Ravid he had not spoken to former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu since Netanyahu called President Biden to congratulate him after the election victory. As quoted in the book, Trump said, "I haven't spoken with him since he congratulated Biden. Blank him." Expletive. Blank him. Netanyahu, in other words. Trump also said to Ravid, "The first person who congratulated Biden was Bibi Netanyahu, the man I did more for than any other person I dealt with. Bibi could have stayed quiet. He has made a terrible mistake." Now, yes, is Trump vain? Probably. Self-centered at times? Well, we all are. We all have our faults. Trump said, "I like Bibi. I still like Bibi. But I also like loyalty." Every politician loves loyalty above all else. The first person to congratulate Biden was Bibi. And not only did he congratulate him, he did it on tape. Well, point of fact, he wasn't the first to congratulate Bibi. I mean, there were the leaders of France and Germany and Canada, the UK, Ireland, were all ahead of Bibi. But Trump was hurt by that. So anyway, he granted Ravid 2 interviews, 90 minutes in total. And he brought up Netanyahu's call to Biden 5 times. So, I mean, it's sticking in his craw. But it's a great piece. Go to WorldNet Daily. Michael Brown is the author of this. And that's who Trump is. I mean, he's got his faults, but he fights for us. And hopefully he'll fight for us again. There is a way he could be the new Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House, according to the Constitution, it might have been an oversight, the Speaker does not have to be elected to the House to become Speaker. If Republicans take control next fall, as they probably will, there's talk of them getting as many as 60 seats, picking up 6 seats in the House. If that were to happen, Trump could be named Speaker. He could take out Pelosi, send her into retirement. It is possible. So I will talk a little bit about Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, instituting a mandate that started today, an indoor mask mandate for the entire state. I guess the COVID cases, they're going in the wrong direction. There's been a spike, mostly in this new Omicron variant, I guess you call it. And, these people who suffer from this so far have had mild symptoms. No deaths from it in America. 1 death in the UK from this. But she wants a mask mandate for the entire state indoors, and we have to wear it in all indoor settings, even in private businesses. All businesses are private, unless the business has enacted a vaccine order. And this mandate applies to both patrons and staff and will be in effect from December 13th, which is today as we record this, until January 15th, after which the state will reevaluate. Now, the CDC is not calling this a mandate. They're calling it a recommendation. But she, the governor, Hochul, who's terrified of COVID, is calling it a mandate. Now, a couple of county executives, Steve McLaughlin for one, I can't think of the other, but McLaughlin, the Rensselaer County executive, says that his county will not comply with a mandate. It's up to individual businesses whether they want to make their patrons wear masks. But I'll just read you Hochul's statement for what it's worth. She said, as governor, my two top priorities are to protect the health of New Yorkers and to protect the health of our economy. Well, she's not doing the second very well. 68,000 positive tests for the virus in the 7-day period that ended December 8th. That's the most in any 7-day stretch since the beginning of February. And then she basically she's blaming us. She said, I've warned for weeks that additional steps could be necessary, and now we're at that point based upon 3 metrics: increasing cases, reduced hospital capacity, and insufficient vaccination rates in certain areas. 93%, according to a radio report I heard today, 93% of New Yorkers have at least one shot. 80% of New York is fully vaccinated. Well, the 2 shots. Some are getting the booster. 80%. Now, some areas, I suspect, up where I live in Washington County, the vaccination rate is low. But overall, the state, it's at 80%. And people are wearing masks all the time. Anyway, the mandate's in effect for the next month or so. And speaking of mandates, some hospitals are dropping their COVID vaccine mandates because they can't find workers. They're losing workers. But some of the country's largest hospital systems have dropped the COVID-19 vaccine mandates for employees. Federal judge, as you know, temporarily halted President Biden's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. And I read this in the Wall Street Journal. As a result, hospital operators such as HCA Healthcare, Inc. and Tenet Healthcare Corporation, nonprofits including Advent Health and the Cleveland Clinic, are dropping the mandates. Not here in New York, though. We've gone down this road. And, these people, the Democrats mostly, but Hochul and some of these liberals in Washington, they're acting as though we're in the early stages of this pandemic. We're not. We're in a different place than we were a year ago, or certainly 2 years ago. We have the vaccines. And 80% of New Yorkers are vaccinated. People are not dying as they did under Cuomo's watch. 9,000 infected people infected with COVID were put into nursing homes, and over 12,000 nursing home residents died as a result. But we're not in those early stages. But people are acting as though we are. We know that those aerosol droplets don't hang in the air for 3 hours after somebody sneezes. We know, according to the science, that the droplets don't live on countertops for 3 days, like we thought they did. So why are we acting as though they do? I don't get it. I think a lot of this is about control. And eventually we're going to have all kinds of different variants of the COVID-19 strain. It's going to split off as viruses do. It wants to protect itself. It's going to split. And with each split, and I'm not a virologist by any stretch, or I'm not any medical professional, but I've read quite a bit, and I know some people who know a lot more than I do about it. Eventually, it's not going to be a pandemic. It will be endemic. It's going to be like the seasonal flu. You take your flu vaccine, some of you, every year, and that's what's going to happen here. We take the vaccine for the COVID and whatever strain, and with each strain, it becomes weaker. As the virus splits, it becomes less lethal. Have you noticed? I mean, Delta's still out there. That was like the apex, the Delta. But with each new strain, the virus will weaken. Eventually, it's going to be endemic, not a pandemic. Anyway, we're out of time, and I didn't get to about half the things I wanted to get to. Thank you very much, folks, again, for listening. And if you like what you hear, let me know. You can hit the like button, hit subscribe, because I've got 4 kids, and one of them is in college, and I need dough, frankly. As Archie Bunker said, I like the fact that you enjoy what you're hearing. But as he said, Archie Bunker, respect is for the dead. The living need dough, and I need dough. Thank you very much for listening. And, we have so many fine programs. We have this one. We have the Ken Burns Show. We have the Adrienne Ross Show. And my daughter, Madeline, will begin a show this week as well. And I forget what she's going to call it. She's got a special name for it. She's got her picture up there. She's really, the website's going to be phenomenal when she begins. And she's really, really adept at all this social media stuff. And she's trying to teach me, but, about teaching old dogs new tricks, that kind of thing. So we'll end it here. Thanks very much, folks, for tuning us in. And again, if you want to contact me directly, you can email me at pacman@thebmgnetwork.com, all lowercase. If the Lord wills it, we will talk to you real soon.
The PAC-Man podcast was produced and edited in the BMG studio. Music by Kevin MacLeod. For more episodes of the PAC-Man podcast, go to thebmgnetwork.com or go to the BMG Network on Facebook. And be sure to tune in to the next episode of the PAC-Man podcast with Ted Flint.